This madman's teaching me history.
He used to scare me. It was really scary because I remember he came in and he gave us a piece of paper and he made us fold it. And I said, oh, you can tell loads about a person by the way they fold a paper. And we were sat there like, okay, great.
Scary. I used to see his feet walking up and down next to me. It used to really scare me.
I was very scared.
A bit scary.
Very scary.
Intimidation. He did intimidate me.
Intimidating, but cute.
Terrifying.
He was absolutely terrifying. He nearly made me cry.
Terrifying.
I was terrified of Mr Haines when I first met him. I was a year 9, I was new to school, I was terrified of everybody, and I went in and he started shouting at us about how we had to draw the title on this side and underline it in pencil and the date, and I was really, really scared I was going to get everything wrong, and I was just terrified of him.
It was really strict. Really strict.
He really knows his stuff.
Oh my god, who is this man who knows everything? Very knowledgeable, which made him very scary.
Interesting.
Really eccentric and kind of like an evil mastermind.
He's a lunatic.
That you were mischievous.
Mysterious girl, I wanna get close to you.
Mad as a hatter.
Obviously we'll start with the boy!
Who is this madman?
He was such a friendly character, and I met him on my interview here. He was very helpful and very knowledgeable.
Seemed like a nice man.
Very cool under pressure.
He's a real natural.
My first impression of Mr Haines was that he was a very kind and very caring and very funny teacher.
Oh, Mr Haines, the man who's involved in so many activities at the school. History teacher, Duke of Edinburgh, Alice in Wonderland, expeditions, just to name a few.
I was just very struck by his enthusiasm for the subject.
He was a lovely, lovely man, and he gave me a big pile of books and homework to take home for the summer, and I had to get on with it. So thank you, Mr Haines.
He called someone fat and stupid within about 10 minutes of the first ever lesson with him. Kind of set the tone.
My first impressions of Mr Haines? Confusing, because the first time we ever met, I had to sleep with him. All that. I had to sleep with him because the first time I arrived at school, it was the beginning of activities week, and I had gone up to the campsite to help out, and I had to share a tent with Mr Haines.
Revolution we held in the lesson room, and he just started throwing paper in Mrs Lynch's face to get her out of the room.
We just did a French Revolution because we got kicked out of our room every Friday when we did the revolution and him throwing paper at Miss Lynch.
And the revolution we did in class.
You had to be there, but Mr Haines will know this one. Probably one of our most memorable moments was not only doing Route 66 in 2012, but it was probably the Wee Willie Winky moment. We were in a jungle in Peru with a bunch of students in huts by candlelight. Somebody mentioned the word Wee Willie Winky, and for whatever reason we started laughing and we could not stop for about 2 hours.
He's really funny, and him and Mr Parnham, when they do the world expeditions, they send me funny photos when they're en route.
Best memory is we went on an educational visit to Liverpool, and at the time in Liverpool they had these big like art installation cows that were all over the city, and it was for kids. It was in memory of like being the city of culture or something, and kids had to go around and spot them all. And we found some one evening and we all decided to climb on these cows and have our photos taken. I remember watching me, Mr Lorraine and Mr Tilbury help Mr Haines onto one of these cows. And that's my favourite memory of the Shadow, so as he likes to be known.
He's going to the Tower of London on a Sunday with a group of students in the History Society, and everyone else is tucking into their sandwiches and their bit of food on the train, and Mr Haines pulls out a bust of Lenin. I'm not quite sure why he had this with him, but Lenin came all the way around the Tower of London with us.
I went on 3 trips with him and Mr Parnham to Eastern Europe, and I think my favourite memory is whenever Mr Haines would do his lamppost trick, where he would make himself just hold on with 2 hands and be completely horizontal, and it was usually something he would do on the way back to the hotel after we'd been in a restaurant for a few hours.
When he asked me questions
told me I looked like an actual person at prom.
Taking the mickey out of me when I came back from Stroh's after 3 days.
Is when Mr Haines and I done our Duke of Edinburgh training, and our final assessment weekend, it never stopped raining, and we were soaked right through to the bone.
Him being our team leader on D&B.
He's been fantastic on D&B, absolutely brilliant.
Probably when he plays in the band at Christmas.
Playing the accordion every year at the Christmas performance.
Our selfie at Christmas.
Is when he's barbecuing, and that can either be an activities week or sixth form barbecue with his pinny on, frying sausages. That's my best memory of him.
Doing the walk on activities week and sussing out the walk last year was fun.
It's being in his tutor group, tutor team, and him telling his tutor group that he was going to suck out their brains, chew them up and put them back in again. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
My best memory of Mr Haines is probably the excitement on a Friday night when he told me that we had to do something about the gifted and talented students. We had to broaden their imaginations, and between us we created the Alice group.
You every morning listening to random music from, I don't know, the 20s and giving me little facts about random things.
Him coming by our wall in the summer and talking to us.
When he would routinely run into a classroom, very excited, say, what's the similarity between this and women? Wait, and go.
Okay, so I was in a show and I was playing a French tart, and Mr Haines came to see it, and on Monday morning at lesson changeover, and I was standing in the main corridor in the school, and he bawls at me, "I enjoyed seeing your pants on Saturday night, Miss McGregor."
When he was in Berlin and he just led us like an army. Berlin trip. Surfing on the train in Berlin with him.
And most of them will have to do with the trips to Berlin. It was just so much fun, and I wouldn't know where to start. It was just, the whole thing was amazing, and the whole thing was only amazing because of Mr Haines.
The Berlin trip.
Going around Berlin, we went to Berlin and I fell asleep on the coach, and he's taken the mickey out of me ever since.
Eccentric. Excellent. Funny. Mad as a hatter.
Dictatorial.
Small.
Brilliant. Amazing. Patient.
Intellectual.
Hardworking.
Dedicated.
Helpful.
Bizarre. Great. Amazingly awesome.
Genius.
Omniscient.
Beer.
The Shadow. He spent a good few years calling him the Shadow because he decided that's what he wanted to be known as.
Would be rebel.
Knowledgeable.
Sage. And I don't mean the herb either.
Lifesaver.
Charming.
Northern.
He's got a fantastic mix of being friendly with students, but at the same time that quiet authority, because people know he really means what he says. He's absolutely rock solid.
Dedicated, caring, wonderful, warm, considerate man, and the most knowledgeable teacher.
Zany.
Eccentric.
A miracle worker.
Passionate about his subject.
Hilarious. Wacky.
Crazy.
Enthusiasm.
But knowledgeable.
Oh, he's a legend.
This is a poem for Steve Haines. It's called His Story. He told the class the school was haunted. He made them feel of dread and doom. He told the class there was once a fire. He said he'd locked them in his room. No one could say Steve hasn't done his bit. In 1914, we are told he defended us in World War I. In 1936, he rowed across the water to Spain for a bit, joining the Civil War and General Franco, to name but one. Then straight back in 1939 for World War II, where the endless stories gave his personal touch. You would have thought he'd been there too. If you'd worked this out, he's 122.
And I wish him well, and congratulations on 25 years in Windsor Girls School.
Straighten your tie.